y'all. Welcome to this week's episode of Ducking Realitea. In the pond with me today is kind of a repeat guest for me. I have Laura MacInnis here from the Family Violence Law Center. And Laura, you were on an episode of Squirrel Girls with me.
Yes.
And Anna, which was so amazing.
Thank you so much. It was an honor. It was really fun to be here with you guys at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and you taught us so much about, and we'll get into it, but because I do want to put a little warning on that we're going to talk about what you do for work, which is a very delicate topic because you work with a lot of abuse victims. Mm-hmm. And yes. You are out there fighting the good fight on helping people get safe and find resources to change their life and stay safe.
Thank you. That's sweet. Yeah, I mean, it's a team effort for sure. And, there's a lot of people doing the work, but I've been really kind of motivated to do this for a long time. So it's kind of, at this point, routine. But yes, thank you for saying that. That's sweet.
Well, because you've been doing this now almost 10 years. You've been out there.
Yeah, I think since even when I was in law school and then after I graduated, I've been doing it, for like 9.5 years now.
Yeah. So how does someone get into this work? So what is like the Laura story before we get into like the other people's stories and the good work you're doing? Like what made you, I mean, I kind of know because we've talked about it, but to catch all of our ducks up, like how did you, become, was it just like, I'm going to be a lawyer or?
Yeah. So, I mean, like get into it like from a while, like way back when.
You can start when you were in kindergarten if you want. I'm here for it. I love a story.
Let me start. I think this kind of goes back to like when I was younger, maybe high school or so. I was always kind of outspoken and interested in social justice in general, and particularly like feminism and women's rights, just because, I related to issues that were affecting me and, people I was around. So I was always kind of interested in social justice type stuff. And I was a little undecided about what I wanted to do in my career. I had a lot of different interests. But I started to explore law because I was really interested in persuasive reading and writing. I always liked advocacy. Law just kind of seemed like a good tool to use. And I think I explored that a little bit more in college. And then when I was in college, I was in a serious relationship, my first serious relationship. And that person, basically I kind of came to terms with it after the fact that it was like an emotionally abusive relationship. And it didn't, it kind of just didn't register to me until maybe I was out of it for a little while and I read a book about it and I talked to people about it and it just like, I started to sort of really understand what was going on. And then that sort of spearheaded my interest more into the domestic violence, sexual violence field. So as I was, when I was in law school, I interned in a domestic violence internship at Bay Area Legal Aid, where I was doing that work.
Did you live in California? Because you went to school in college in California.
I went to college at Ohio State. I'm from Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then I went to Berkeley for law school.
That's what brought you to the Bay.
Exactly. And I never want to leave. But so that was kind of like what spearheaded my interest in like the domestic violence legal field. And turns out at Berkeley, there's a prominent legal scholar, Nancy Lemon, who basically like she started like the first domestic violence legal textbook and has been a big prominent figure. So she was like a mentor to me as well.
Yeah, she literally wrote the book on it.
Yeah. Yep. Literally wrote it.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's amazing. And that's an amazing thing that you kind of aligned with. Or did you know that she was there when you went to Berkeley?
No. It was just kind of maybe faded or something. But I just was exploring my interests at the time, and I was exploring lots of different things. I was interested in immigration law too, and I did a stint in like a public education internship, and I did like a policy clinic thing. So I was just kind of delving into different areas, but my first like love, I guess you could say, was family law in the domestic violence field because I loved working with our clients. I felt very connected to the mission, and I felt like we were really making a tangible impact on the work we were doing.
Yeah. I can imagine, especially when you go through it yourself. And even if, like you said, you didn't realize it in the moment, and we touched on it, because that happened to me. Like I was in a relationship and I was in therapy and my therapist was like, well, this is an abusive relationship. And I was like, what? No,
Right.
he doesn't abuse me. And then she was like, well,
Right.
let's go through some things.
Right.
And I was like, wow, yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it. Exactly. Yeah. I didn't know that until after I was out of it. Like you said. Yeah.
And now I think we talked about, but what are some of the flags that someone can look for? Like when, like what is something where they can tell the difference between this is a bad relationship and this is abuse?
Yeah. So some of the warning signs are like kind of extreme jealousy or possessiveness. We see that in a lot of our cases still, where someone might be, maybe manipulating situations where, the person is maybe not able to see their family or friends without guilt or consequence. So there's maybe an isolating component to it where, the person starts to feel isolated from their support network, maybe their job, their outside resources. Another one is like any physical intimidation. So sometimes it can look confusing when, maybe the person wasn't directly hit or touched, but any kind of like throwing objects around or maybe physical gestures that, could make someone feel fear of a consequence if they don't comply with something like that. A lot of the stuff we also see, if we're going into kind of emotional abuse territory, is like coercion. So a lot of manipulation can be part of like abusive components, and that's hard to spot when you're in it.
Right.
But a lot of it is kind of controlling through words or through manipulative conduct about what outcomes the person wants to achieve. So we see that a lot with like coerced sex or coerced sexual activity, maybe like not using birth control or
condoms is a big one.
Yeah, sex trafficking is a big one. We see a lot of coercion there.
If someone doesn't understand what you mean by that, can you kind of just give us the layman's terms of what that means or what it looks like?
Sex trafficking?
Or no, the coercion.
Oh, coercion, yeah. So yeah, layman's terms of that, I would say...
Because I think some people get lost in like the language of it.
Yeah, I could imagine that. I would say that coercion is something that is influenced. I'm trying to think like on the fly how I would define coercion. It's like manipulative influence on someone's behavior. So it's like it's kind of engaging in power dynamics through something that is subtle and, maybe verbal, but it's still kind of a power play. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
The one thing that pops into my head immediately is the Diddy case.
Oh,
when they were talking about...
Yes.
Oh my gosh, her name just got...
Cassie?
Cassie, yes.
Yeah.
When Cassie was saying, like, they were saying that text messages said that she wanted to do things, or like she said she wanted to do them because she knows that if she doesn't want to do them, then she gets abused, she gets hit, she gets whatever, was happening. He was acquitted, but like from the videos, we don't know what else was happening.
Right.
But it's like an abuse victim who knows, like, I'm going to get the threat of being hit or I'm going to get hit if I don't say I want to do this.
Right. Exactly. It's like, that there's going to be a consequence, and it could be just like emotional. It could be emotional consequences too, like maybe guilt tripping or,
icing someone out.
A lot of these things are unfortunately pretty common in relationships and, bad relationships. And so it can be confusing when it turns into abusive territory.
Right.
But I think, it's important to really like check in with like how the person is feeling and what the outcomes of the situation are. It's like, if you are finding yourself in a situation where you're with someone and you're losing your friends and your family and things just aren't looking like they usually do in your life, maybe that's a sign that it's not healthy and,
right.
Yeah,
and even if it's just a bad relationship, like that's bad enough. Get out, It doesn't have to be abusive to leave.
Right, that's
I think
true.
some people think like this is as good as it's going to get, or excuse me, that maybe someone else has it worse.
Right.
Like this is, but they love me, but it's a bad relationship or abuse. It's not a good thing.
I know. I think people, and I think I fell into this too, is like you can get hung up on the label and like want a lot of certainty. And like it's difficult to find maybe some closure in what's going on because you just, you want the certainty of what's happening to me. Right.
Right.
But it's sometimes important to just like look at the bigger picture and it's like, how is this affecting you?
Right.
Or how's your life right now?
Yeah. And how do you feel every day? And it's like, are you excited or are you hesitant? Are you kind of nervous about any of your interactions?
Yeah. Right.
Like, I remember I used to pretend to be asleep so that I wouldn't have to talk.
Right. It's like, are you being authentic? Are you able to be authentic? Are you free to be yourself or not? Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. And I think, you can still maybe call that a bad relationship. And at times when I would try to talk to people and be like, I think something might be a little off, I would get oftentimes like, oh, what do you think relationships are supposed to be easy?
Yes.
Oh, you think we never had hard times? And I was like, I'm not saying that. But sometimes it was like I needed to buffer what I was saying because I didn't even know what was happening. Like I said, until I had that one therapist that was like, yeah, but you're in a, like, she was just so matter of fact about it that I was kind of like, what do you mean? Like, no.
Like just spelling it out.
Yeah. And she was like, no, like the fact that you're like, hey, I don't wear this stuff and I don't do this stuff or I'm not allowed to. She's like, the amount of times you say I'm not allowed to do something.
Right.
She's like, you're a grown ass woman.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, okay.
Like when you put it that way. Right.
Like, now it seems kind of so simple. And like me now can't even imagine that, like allowing that to happen or being in that situation.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, but me at 20 was like, okay, let's do it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And it's like, important for people to give themselves grace if you're in a situation like this because it can happen slowly. I mean, things like abusive relationships often start out so well and so, fantasy-like and like a fairy tale. And it's, when you fall in love, your judgment, unfortunately, or your ability to discern like your critical thinking skills unfortunately goes down. It's more, uninhibited. Right. So you're more vulnerable to that kind of thing. And so it's people get attached and trauma bonded to, to their abusers.
Yeah, that was for sure. Ours started out really well and then kind of slowly changed. Yeah. And I was like, wow, we've gotten so far from where we started.
Yeah.
And so far from where we should be.
I know. And then it's like, there's a lot of times people really cling to the beginning stages of like, how do we get back there? How do we improve to where we were? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh yeah, but we'll get back to where we used to be and we'll be those people and I'll be that person and it'll be okay. And, and I really did love him. So I can't. Yeah. Like sometimes I want to be like, I know at several points along the way that I had moments that I was like, this probably isn't gonna work out or like we probably are too past it. But I still had that like love, hope, little like, but our story is great. That was one. And that's one we both used. Like I remember when we were really breaking up at one point, he was like, but our story is so good.
Ugh. Yeah.
And it's like the ending won't be.
Right. Yes, it won't be. Right. It's like, it's kind of hooking you into this like fantasy idea of like our story, right? It's this whole narrative of like, this is us in this kind of like fairy tale world. But when you look at the reality, like objectively, it's not a fairy tale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very far from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is kind of what you deal with every day is people going through this and realizing like, oh, shit, I'm in a position that I shouldn't be. And unfortunately, you're dealing with people that are in it kind of in the worst cases.
Yeah. And some of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're the managing partner or
managing attorney. Yes. I manage the legal department. Yeah.
So like, what does a typical day look like for you in that role? Like, what's your...
So our organization, Family Violence Law Center, is we have different departments. So we work holistically around clients' needs and we strive to, meet what they're needing. So a lot of the times our team of advocates, the crisis intervention unit members will send me, they'll basically do an intake of, the client's demographics and what their abuse history is and what they're needing. And I will get basically a referral from them and they'll, highlight kind of what they're looking for. And then I will sort of do my own analysis and maybe look at if they have any court pleadings or whatever. And I'll assign that out to a legal member and I'll assess what they're looking for. So I'm doing a lot of like, researching and understanding someone's situation and then assigning and delegating and following up as needed. So that's like a big bulk of what I do. A lot of it is also like supervising my attorneys in their work, making sure the data is entered correctly, going to kind of joint meetings and collaborative meetings, working alongside partners in the field, operating sort of the outreach work that we do. And yeah, like trying to think of sort of what other like loose ends I could talk about there. Just a lot of trying to make our services, streamline our services, make sure that everything's kind of up to date and improved, and working with our team as much as we can.
So when you say like holistic, what kind of services are you all offering to the clients, and what are like the top 4 things your clients come to you for? Yeah.
So I guess, I can speak for my role, right? So I'm looking at like once a client is sent to the legal department, they might not always be calling for legal services. A lot of what they're looking for on the advocate side, I think a lot of it is probably housing. A lot of them are trying to move or relocate. So sometimes legal will step in if they need to break their lease early, or if they need a lock change or something like that. Or sometimes they need financial assistance to get to another place or to kind of maintain where they're at. Mm-hmm. So a lot of like case management and housing, sometimes legal services, and custody is a big one, because oftentimes, our survivor clients have children in common with their abusers. And so they might need usually just need a lot of stabilization. So maybe they're trying to get out. They might need a custody order. They might need child support. They might need to kind of like financially stabilize themselves apart from their abuser for the first time ever. Right.
That has to be hard.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible when I see some of the stories of people that get out of these situations, because a lot of them have no money, and, maybe they have immigration issues, or they have, they have been prevented from working, or maybe they just don't have a lot of education or language barriers. And so it's like, how do you support a family in the Bay Area after being abused for so long?
But you see a lot, or I'm hoping there's more good stories than bad stories.
I think we help people get to the other side. And I think that's what I really like about the work, is that we do see people get out, and they call us back sometimes, and they write books, and they send us thank yous, and, you can really see that they've turned their life around. And it's not always like an easy, clear-cut, like linear process. Sometimes people do kind of cycle in and out, and they come back, but oftentimes over time they learn to kind of stand on their own 2 feet more. And that's the nice thing, is like getting to see people kind of fight for their independence and their self-worth.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of safety nets in the U.S. for any of this.
No.
Most people, I think, are one paycheck away from homelessness or being unhoused. Mm-hmm. And I don't think most people want to admit that.
Right.
And then they think like, oh, that's the other person's. That wouldn't happen to me.
Yeah.
And then it's easier to not worry about the services or the nonprofits in your area or the food banks. And
I know. It's true. Yeah, it's true. I think they say financial dependence is like the biggest. Fact check me on the stat, but I think that financial dependency is like one of the biggest contributors to domestic violence. Like, it's the number one hurdle to get out of it.
Right.
So, and especially here in the Bay Area where everything's so expensive, but anywhere really, it's like, you have to kind of trust that, you can support yourself. And if you have dependents like children or maybe caregivers or something, that you're going to be able to do that on your own, and maybe not with the help of the person who's trying to abuse you and tear you down and keep you dependent on them. It's very, very challenging.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
When I was leaving my situation, I hadn't worked for a long time because I had an injury.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, like I can't, once the light came on, like I said, we tried, and I went to different things. We tried a lot of things to fix it, and it just was like, okay, it's not fixable. Now what do I do? And I luckily have had a safety net. I had my parents and was like, hey, can I come home?
Yeah.
And it was great, but it also was hard because at one point, like they saw some of it and were like, okay, yeah, this is not healthy. Mm-hmm. And then when I actually was leaving, it was like, well, are you sure you have to leave?
Oh, really?
And I'm like, wait,
no.
what? Like, and it was like a whiplash moment of like, what you...
Right,
and then
second
it was like,
guessing.
Yeah, and then it was like, wait, then am I safe to come here? Like, what does that mean? Like, now I'm going to be dependent on my parents and trying to figure out how to get my life back. And now they're doubting, And for me, luckily, my dad was like, oh, no, like, this is,
Yeah.
this is it. Like, she's coming home. She does have to leave. Like, we're not going to have this conversation again. And I was just like, thank you for that. But I can't imagine what it's like for someone that doesn't have that.
I know.
I think there's probably way more of those people than there are people, you know, like I always say or remind myself I had a high bottom. Like I hit my rock bottom, but it still wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't where, you know, I wasn't in the ditch.
Totally. No, I think I can relate to that a lot. Like if, you know, I had a lot of privilege growing up in that regard and like stable family life and everything. And I was, you know, I still got myself into the situation. Not that it's, you know, I'm not blaming myself, but just to say that it, you know, people can be in these situations. It's pretty common, right?
Right.
And if I didn't have like my parents and the stability, it would be a lot harder. I think this is how people get kind of wrapped up into situations for longer. And we see people that, we see people who are in it for decades sometimes, 30-year marriages, 35-year marriages, kids that are all grown up and, you know, and it's just been like a long history of abuse and they're fed up and they want to get out of it.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
And I think there's the shame of it that is, which I still don't really understand the shame of it. Like why it's hard, why nobody wants to talk about. Like I understand it's a hard situation.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the shame around it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but it is extremely, extremely common to feel like self-blame, you know, for being in that situation. I think what happens from my own perspective and like my own kind of anecdotal watching people go through it is that a lot of people have, unfortunately, through a lot of these interactions with their abuser, it's almost like their trust gets turned against themselves and they lose their sense of self-trust because they're in, you know, a situation that's hurting themselves. And so not necessarily through their fault, quote unquote, but I'm just saying they're in a situation that, you know, it creates a lot of cognitive dissonance so that they want to believe like, no, I can take care of myself. I'm owning my life. And then also like I'm in a situation that's harming me. And it's hard to rectify that when you really love someone and you don't want to believe it's true.
Right.
So then psychologically, I think a lot of the times their self-esteem gets eroded because their sense of self is eroded. It's like abuse. That's kind of what abuse is all about, really. It's taking away someone's sense of self, like their sense of I am me and I am allowed to my own body, make my own decisions, own my own life, have sense of dreams and goals and all of that. And it basically becomes about like, I kind of am an extension of this other person. Like I exist to be controlled by this other person.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I sense that a lot of the shame comes in because it's a kind of symptom of like the abusive dynamic and the trauma bond.
That actually makes a lot of sense. And I don't know if I've thought of it that way before.
Yeah.
But I get that. For me, it always felt like more the judgment of it, of the other people in your life that judge you for it or judge that, or like, it's not that bad or, you know, or then it's the opposite of, well, then why would you put up with it for so long?
Right.
Or it's all like the judgment stuff that comes, is where I kind of usually focus on. But the sense of self and the loss of the sense of self, I think is probably way more responsible for that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all part of it. I mean, like socially and culturally, we still have a long way to go. I think we're getting better in a lot of ways, but there's always, of course, reactionary backlash. And a lot of people just haven't caught up or haven't been in situations or haven't like yet come to terms with situations like that themselves. And so, you know, when you hear feedback from that from other people and you haven't yet like, you know, come to terms with like, no, this is not okay, then of course, people are going to be vulnerable to other people's opinions about it. And that's not always safe in our society.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obvious with what's going on in the world right now because and I want to talk to you with some of that, but just kind of staying on this part, how does someone usually find their way out? Like, or how do they find you? Like you said, you have a crisis team. So are they just out there in the community and getting referrals? Or
yeah, I mean, so our agency, we do it in a lot of different ways. So we have partner organizations that send us clients, or we have a website, clients just call us. There's a lot of word of mouth. There's also, we also get police reports through some agencies. So Berkeley and Oakland we get a lot of police reports from them. Like we have a kind of partnership with them so that a lot of our advocates will call clients and sort of outreach them directly.
Mm.
So they'll basically call victims on the police report and see if they want any further help.
Yeah.
And so we get quite a number of intakes from that process too.
Because I was just thinking, like, if someone's self-worth is and self kind of belief is so drained, how do they even get out of it to come see you or to get out of that situation?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, I can't speak for everybody, but I think, when you've dealt with these situations, if you're in a situation like this for a while, people, they know deep down that it's not right. They know that this is not something that they want to tolerate. And everyone's got a different breaking point. So everyone's got a different point where it's like, no, this is the line.
Right.
And I think, that's kind of their own journey to figure out like where to draw that line.
Is it ever hard for you when someone comes and then they backtrack?
It's not hard for me. I've seen it so many times. I just try to, I think we're trained to like really give a lot of ownership and agency to people that are going through it because, they're in their own world and they're making their own decisions. Right. Of course, it is hard. I will say sometimes it's hard when like there's kids involved and the kids are being really affected. Obviously, like the person themselves is being affected, but the kids can't always make those decisions,
Yeah,
so it's like
that's going to be the hardest.
A lot of it's just sort of out of their control, and that's really tough to see.
And I'm sure that you now, because you've been in it almost a decade, like you see kids of situations that might be coming back through, or because hurt people. And so sometimes I think too, when you grow up in certain dynamics, you don't recognize abuse as abuse because maybe your own childhood wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. So you were kind of already in that pipeline almost of like, oh, well, this person treats me better than my parent treated my other parent, or things like that. I'm sure that you must see a lot of that too.
Like people growing up to be abusers themselves, or abusive,
or just easily to be abused.
Oh, to be abused, yeah.
I mean, both really.
Both,
like,
yeah.
You probably either come out of those situations as, you can't. If you've never gotten help, I can't imagine like what healthy relationships look like.
Yeah.
So if all you've been surrounded with is unhealthy ones, it must be even harder to recognize the signs.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we see it's hard to track sometimes when like, the kids are going through it too. But I've seen it where like families will go through it together, I guess. And the kids will maybe be old enough to testify, or, they'll want to be heard. Or I've seen it unfortunately a couple times where like the kids testify against the client because maybe there's a lot of like alienation going on, but usually the kids are like young enough that the client is just kind of making decisions about custody and everything. And if they're old enough, they tend to want to stay with, the survivor client themselves. And that's not always in court. It's we can get into the legal like ins and outs of custody, but I think that the laws in California are becoming more liberal as far as like having children give more of a voice to them and what they want visitation wise. But it depends on like their age and capacity and like appropriateness of the case too.
Is that hard? Because I've had a couple of conversations with some people about kind of the alienation. Like I was interviewing a guy, and we're doing pre-interviews, and he was saying like that court doesn't really even recognize alienation. And I was like, I can't imagine that that's true. Like I wasn't I'm like, it seems like something that's so obvious because it happens in friendships. It happens in like, I would think any divorce, like people start kind of like pitting each other against each other or picking sides or like getting them to be on their side.
Triangulation and whatnot.
Yeah. That I would think that that's like kind of a well-known thing and very.
Yeah. So alienation's complicated. So there's like a term that someone coined, I forget the name, but it's called parental alienation syndrome. And so that form of alienation was more geared towards, I think, like the idea that typically mothers. I don't think it's like exclusively mothers, but a lot of the times mothers who claimed that there was child sexual abuse or child abuse going on in the dynamic, they were trying to alienate the other parent away from the child. And so there's a lot of controversy over it, basically, about how valid it is. Because there is some like theories that, some parents do try to alienate the other parent away. And so they maybe make stuff up or exaggerate things, or basically like have a hard time letting the other parent in, which is very, courts see that as very detrimental to the child's well-being, to not allow the other parent to have a relationship with the child. But then there's another frame, which is that a lot of the times survivors of domestic violence, like a lot of mothers, it's not all mothers, but, a lot of women, because it's a very gendered dynamic, they will be very protective of the child when there's abuse going on, and they will try to make a safe, like they want safety for the child. And so that looks like alienation. So it's complicated. And I think a lot of judges and courts have not maybe caught up to maybe the dynamics at play. They might have their own kind of frames of reference on it and biases. But I know that Nancy Lemon a while back was working on researching parental alienation syndrome and basically called it junk science. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's complicated. It's nuanced,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you describe it much better, because like he was telling me like that the courts don't believe that one parent could be pitting the other ones, or like keeping them from avoiding from seeing each other, or trying them, run interference so they don't see each other. And he was saying that it's very easy for a woman to claim either violence or and get the kids right away, and like it's harder for it's easy for he was saying dad, but mostly I think parent, because I don't think it's all just one sex either, but that it's very easy for them to lose custody, but it's very hard for them to get it back.
So, and I don't know,
and he was just telling me kind of his story, and so it was very, like, I knew it was coming in very personal, and then I couldn't really suss out like what was kind of his real experience versus what like he's now kind of dramatized it for. And so I was like, some of this I can't believe. And then some of it he sent me videos and all the things about like dads that had never had abuse, that had lost their privilege to see their kids, and like basically buying it back. And I was like, okay, now this is definitely a question I'll have to ask when Laura comes in.
I
know you can't speak to that specific,
love to, peruse all the records and everything. But what I will say is that in my experience, I think a lot of judges do still believe in the alienation doctrine, like that some parents try to alienate the other parent for whatever reason. I do think it might be shifting, like over time. They might be understanding it differently. The laws in California definitely have been shifting and are much more survivor friendly than they used to be. A lot of that work can be credited to an amazing appellate organization called Family Violence Appellate Project, which was started not that long before I was in law school, actually. But they basically do a lot of the work to bring claims from survivors to appeal so that they set precedent in California, which has like liberalized and broadened a lot of the laws for survivors. And I think maybe because of that and because of the legislative changes for custody, they've become a lot more friendly to survivors of domestic violence custody-wise. So oftentimes, if there is abuse that is found to be in a dynamic, there is a presumption of sole custody for the survivor of violence. And that's an automatic presumption that didn't historically always, like because of the law change, it wasn't always the case. So historically, it was always kind of assumed joint custody because both parents should be in the picture. And now all this research is coming out about like how domestic violence is detrimental to kids and how it's like these relationships that are unsafe, are affecting their well-being. So there's been more of a shift to change the custody laws. So I don't know if that's what they're referring to as like, it seems like, maybe they think that it's presumed that the mother gets the custody, but it's probably a lot of it is because of legal changes if this was in California.
Yeah, I mean, I think I presume, like, I know it's changed over the years too, but it used to just be like if you were getting a divorce, the mom got the kids. and the dad was there for financial reasons only.
Mm-hmm.
And that I thought that had changed a lot more, but the way he was saying it was like it hasn't changed that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I feel like I know a lot of stories that
Yeah.
it has changed. But especially if domestic violence is in the picture, it would make sense that it would go to, like, the child should go to the survivor, because if one parent is beating another or abusing, then if you take away their abuse object, then that abuse is going to go somewhere else. And I would assume it would just go to kids.
Right. Well, and I think my understanding from there's a big, I don't want to say myth, but there's a longstanding, I mean, it's kind of a myth, but the idea that, like, oh, moms get such a custody advantage in court, that might be true of some jurisdictions. I'm not saying it's not. But my understanding is that the reason that a lot of mothers were walking away with custody, by and large, was because the fathers of the kids in hetero relationships were much less likely to fight for custody. Mm-hmm. And in domestic violence situations, fathers of children are much more likely to battle, to do a custody battle. So they're more likely to contest custody. And so when that happens, a lot of the times I think judges see it as, dad wants the kids, let him see the kids, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why there's a lot of controversy over, you know, the quote unquote, like, idea that mothers have this, like, custody advantage, and it sucks for dads, right?
Right.
Which I'm not saying there are situations out there where, dads are, they don't get a fair shake or what have you. I'm not saying that at all, but I just want it to be clear that there's some, I think, missing information for some people, that they don't understand some of the dynamics and statistics that kind of influence, like, the custody shift. Yeah.
Is there, like, a myth around domestic violence, if you could make disappear to make it change? Is there, like, one or two that you're like, if that just assumption or myth was taken out, it would make it more digestible even?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, what are some of the myths? Maybe I got to, like, think of all the myths out there.
Yeah. I would think that mostly it's hetero relationships and mostly men beating women, or abusing, I should say, because not all abuse is physical.
Yeah.
Or that it doesn't happen the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's changing a lot. I think people are kind of coming around to that one more.
That's equally as horrible.
Well, in my experience, we don't see it on equal terms. Like, I don't see it as, at least, people coming to our agency, I don't see it as equally in numbers, at least. But I do think, like, people are kind of coming around to, like, knowing that all people can be susceptible to abuse. But I think one thing, let's see, that I would change is, I mean, I guess just, like, one thing that really opened my eyes working in this field is just, like, how prevalent it is. And I think people don't realize that as much, that it's in every single neighborhood in our community. It's on our streets, it's in our, the shops that we go to, and that it's a systemic, like, it's a systemic societal issue that we really need to confront. And unfortunately, because it's kind of bred in isolation, I think a lot of the times our government doesn't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it as a systemic issue, but it really is systemic. And it not only affects the people themselves, but it affects their families, their dependents, their community, their work. It's, it causes a lot of destruction, kind of like a ripple in the pond, right? It just causes destruction sort of all around the community. So I wish that was, like, more open to the public to see. Like, I wish it was just more obvious that, like, no, this is not just a him and her situation. This is, like, a community problem.
Right. Yeah, that you feel the ripples throughout your community on this. Well, because one, domestic violence can be really hard to prove, from what I understand. But two, then, like, if the cops don't always want to get involved, and then in the court system, depending on the person that you have and their own biases, they don't always agree on what abuse is. So it feels like we don't have, like, one understanding or one kind of definition you can grab to be like, well, this is it. And it's like we were just talking about a little while ago. Is it a bad relationship or abuse? And it's like, well, are they just being dramatic, or is it that bad? Is kind of like the prevailing blanket on it. And now I'm wondering if that's because it makes it more palatable to be like, it's over there. It's not as bad as I think it is.
Yeah.
Like, it hasn't happened to me, so it's probably not happening to most people.
Yeah. Yeah. maybe.
Oh, that's kind of gross.
I know. I know. Yeah, I think there's, people, it's easier psychologically to distance yourself from someone that's in that situation. It's kind of like when people who communicate with like unhoused people, and it's like, oh, that can't be me. So it's easier psychologically to distance yourself from the reality that this person is in, because it's, maybe like really hard to grapple with like, oh, this is a, systemic problem that is not like an individually created,
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think because so many people are actually so close to it, it's like I got to keep it far away from me. So I got to keep those people that represent it far away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can understand it because you do have to kind of like, because if you, especially living here in the Bay and the unhoused problem, and, we have huge encampments. Like I'd never seen encampments until I moved to California.
Yeah, me too.
Like I've seen it, and when you see it online, it's terrible. But when you drive through it on like a regular basis, you almost stop seeing it, or like you avoid those neighborhoods, and like that I find in myself gross. Like I don't want to go that way because I don't want to go back, and it's just because it breaks my heart. Like, and how do I, like, what can I? There's nothing it doesn't feel like there's anything you can do to solve it. So it's like easier not to think about or to avoid. Yeah. But it's also like, if all of us are doing that, that problem never gets better. Yeah. And if so many families are one paycheck away from being that, like instead of like avoiding it, I feel like we should all be leaning into it and figuring out like really how to make solutions and make differences. Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody, it's like we can't solve everything. We can't take the world on our shoulders at the same time, but we can do our part. So, I mean, like I think it's important for me personally, and I think it's important for a lot of people to balance their lives as much as possible. So, yes, like we're all contributing to making society a better place, but also just like give yourself joy and like love. And that also ripples out to people too. Like it's important to not just completely like be consumed with all the burden of everything.
Right. But, well, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, you know that better than anyone because you're in the trenches every day, and then you also have to like go home and have your life and have your joy. Yeah. And I can imagine that the burnout in what you do is huge. Yeah, definitely. And like, how do you kind of balance that? Like, because you deal with so like some pretty terrible stuff. Yeah, you know, like you're seeing some of the worst parts of humans.
Yeah. We sure are. I mean, it's a good question, and I appreciate that you are sharing, that you're highlighting this part. And we actually ask this in every interview that we have for our agency is like, how do you self-care? Because I think it's super important. But I mean, I just really try to clock out. I have my work time, I have my home time, and I really do give myself joy. I do a lot of yoga, I do a lot of exercise, and I'm with friends and community and loved ones. Just trying to like live a healthy life as much as possible. And I think I'm doing that more and more as I get more into the field. Like when I started out, I didn't have great boundaries around my work, and I think I was suffering, and I think my work was suffering because of it, because I was like taking on too much psychologically and work-wise, and I wasn't happy, as much. And I felt that way sometimes in law school too. And so I really learned over the years to prioritize joy and happiness and, just feeding your soul. And that really does make an impact on your life, on your work, and on other people. And it's not always like easy to do perfectly, but at least like having that kind of as a North Star, I think is important.
Yeah, I think it's a huge important. I always think joy as resistance. Yeah. Like I am for it. Like I am a huge part of that movement. And like, yes, the world is on fire, and there's times that like I can't watch the news anymore because I'm like, I can't let my heart be broken that much. Yeah. And so much of it is so far from how I think about people. We were talking earlier about how off mics when I was saying like my baseline is like just treat people like human beings. Like I think that's not something you can really fight about. But then it is, because it's like, well, people rank human beings somehow now. And it's like, no, just treat people how you want to be treated. Like you don't want someone abusing you. Yeah.
I know, it's so simple, right?
Yeah, or it seems so simple.
It seems so simple.
But it's, and then you look at things but I'm like, you got to go find your joy. I end every podcast with go find your joy. I remind people, I try to make sure I'm putting out like joyous little happy things, because the bad shit always is going to happen and it's going to come. But if you're looking for the joy, like you're aware that it's going to come.
Yeah.
But if you're not looking for it, you won't find it as much.
Right. Agreed. 100% agree.
And
I think, joy is and nourishment, is really important to, like you said, resist. Because how I see it is in this, meta climate that we're in, politically and everything, I think a lot of the times the forces that be aim to create a society of fear and compliance. And when you're in that fear state and the stress and anxiety and just feeling defeated, there's a collapsing, kind of a physiological collapsing, and it's just, a giving up kind of mentality. But when there's kind of standing on your own 2 feet and loving your life and kind of just existing as you would want to exist regardless of what's happening around you, that's kind of the opposite of the intended effect, on your emotional state. It's kind of similar to abusive relationships. It's in abusive relationships, there's a sort of maybe subconscious desire to get the person dependent, which can look like fear of non-compliance, like what will happen if I don't do this. But if you kind of are authentic to yourself and acting in accordance with your alignment with what you want to do and how you want to behave, that is resistance to, control ultimately.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's you trusting in your own thoughts and actions as opposed to trusting in someone else's thoughts and actions for you.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I can tell, just thinking about back then and now and how different I am in relationships and just how different I am in someone's kind of opinion of things. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're back.
Totally.
Okay, sure. You don't like me? Okay, that's great. But you don't pay my bills and you're not in my bed.
Right.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's having that confidence.
Yes.
It's having that confidence to be okay, it's great that you don't agree with me.
Right. And self-assertion, right? The ability to exist with yourself and know yourself and not have to rely on someone else's opinion for it.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's a very powerful place. And it doesn't seem like it should be that hard.
Yeah, right. But it's a lifelong journey, I think, for a lot of us. I mean, even just because I think a lot of this is very human and relatable, not caring what other people think or not feeding into the validation of someone else. But, I think it's a human dynamic that people could get in. That's why it's so easy to be in these dynamics.
Right. Yeah, I think it makes it easy when you don't have that inside kind of guiding voice to find out someone else's voice and think it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is really easy. And I think sometimes it's easier because then you don't have to think. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to survive so many other things, sometimes you're oh, I can outsource that one thing.
Yes.
And then you don't realize that you're outsourcing your whole being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Survival mode kind of puts people into a different state of mind.
Yeah. I think so. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to survive one portion of life and then the other portions of your life are also not, if you don't have a job you like, you don't have a good relationship, you're struggling financially, all of that, there's only so much that you can tread on before you're just someone give me some kind of lifeline.
Exactly.
Yeah. And sometimes that lifeline is really an anchor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So the other one big thing I wanted to ask you about, because you kind of alluded to it earlier, was the human trafficking.
Okay. Yeah.
That you kind of know way more than I would about. But I think it's also kind of a interesting time to come back and talk to you about this stuff with everything that just happened with the Epstein files.
Oh, yeah.
And the reshaping of what all of that looks like or even is talked about.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was really interested in what your thoughts are on all of that.
The Epstein thing and just
the fact that human trafficking is such a huge problem that no one talks about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in some ways, I'm glad that it's coming to light, that we have this on a public worldwide stage now. That's great. obviously none of the facts are great. There's
Right.
terrible, terrible, horrific, systemic abuse of young girls. But, I'm really encouraged by all the victims coming out and speaking out about it. It takes a lot of courage, especially against such powerful figures that they're up against, and dangerous too, to be doing that. But yeah, I mean, let's see. What can I say about trafficking? I'm going to be honest, I don't have as much experience with trafficking. I have obviously some, like we have trafficking cases. They're really tough because I think a lot of the times there's such a resistance to leave. And just like,
Interesting.
I think there's just been so much, there's oftentimes just like a lot of brainwashing going on and it starts from such a young age oftentimes too, that those cases are hard to get out of. I don't know if you saw like the R. Kelly documentaries too, but
I haven't seen the R. Kelly one.
Yeah.
I've seen snippets of it. I have not watched the whole thing.
yeah, it's really barbaric.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
It's really hard. And, there was like this one scene I remember that this girl had been basically kidnapped by R. Kelly from when she was a teenager and basically kept kind of hostage. And her parents came and found her somewhere and she like refused to leave. She didn't leave, and she was like, I don't know if it was because of fear or if it was because of just like distrust,
Right.
maybe distrust of her
them,
family,
yeah. It almost sounds like when someone's in a cult, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's very cult-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I watched plenty of those documentaries.
Me too. Me too. Seen them all.
Yeah. I've watched those and been like, and when I lived in a rural part of New York and there was a cult that lived there. So
Yeah.
we were very aware of them and
Yeah.
very much like, be careful when you talk to them
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just like stay away.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Because I think with cults and trafficking have the coercive element in common. So it's like there's a lot of I find with a lot of our clients that they believe that they are in this like maybe fairy tale, sometimes relationship with the person that it's exploiting them, and being kind of like believing that they're kind of choosing to do these acts. And then there's also, maybe physical intimidation or sexual intimidation or abuse to get them to comply with what's going on. So it's just a very exploitative dynamic. But I find that there often is a lot of kind of manipulation going on behind the scenes. It's true of cult-like dynamics too.
Yeah. Because I've heard stories of like young girls being like pimped out and they think that they're making that decision when really like they're just being used.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine that leads to a lot of that trafficking and just.
Yeah. And I think just, from like some of the people that go through the experience, there's like, if you're raised from such a young age, like where do you go? Where's your escape route? And then, if you get out, they might come find you. And there's, a lot of people that are systemically working on locating your whereabouts and so it's just, there's the fear and there's the, what are my options?
Right.
And there are options. Like, I want that to be clear. Like, people can get out of it. But I think they're very tight-knit kind of systems of abuse. And that's probably why Epstein got away with it for so long. And people just like looked the other way and didn't.
That's the part that gets me, is the amount of people that look away. Or the amount of people that keep saying something about his island.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think it just happened on his island? You don't think it happened in his mansion in New York?
Right.
Like,
right.
everyone's been so focused on
That's a good point.
the island, and this person didn't go to the island, but they went to his penthouse every fucking week.
Right.
But you don't think that, and people keep talking about the girls that were at the New York mansion. So do you think that they only abuse someone on an island?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It seems like that has not come up in conversation at all. And I'm like, you see all these pictures of people in his house with young girls, and you just think it only didn't happen there?
I know.
Is it like, what kind of denial can people be in?
Yeah, there's a lot of denial and like looking away and not wanting to believe what's going on. I think I read recently that like one of the things that helps change domestic violence like culturally and more widespread is bystander intervention education. So like more of a cultural shift around like intervening. And obviously it's not always safe to do that physically, right? But just, reporting things and monitoring situations that might look exploitative or abusive. And that can be like sometimes a lifeline to get people out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's a great point is when you do see it, what do you do? Because it, especially in this kind of, this is a huge situation, but like, and I guess let's stay with that. Because if I had gone to one of his parties and seen something, to say like, I would definitely say something is, you just can't say it, if you're not in that situation. But I would like to think that I would be like, hey, time out. Does anyone else see this? And like kind of, but in that situation where they're all so powerful and I'm sure it was all blackmail and what do you do? Or if you're kind of distill it down and you're at, I don't know, a restaurant and you see it, what can you do as a bystander?
When you see
something that's very inappropriate for, like, I don't know, like a manager, like sexually harassing an employee.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it depends on if it, meets the definition of a crime or not. Because, we always tell clients, like, if you feel comfortable reporting it to the police, you can. We would never force that on anyone. We'd never, advocate for it necessarily. But, we get cases sometimes where neighbors call the police when they hear something, hear a domestic violence incident or like maybe there's something that's going on in public and a bystander will come around, and sometimes that is kind of the way that it stops the it kind of does stop the incident.
Right.
So I've seen a number of those where witnesses or bystanders or neighbors will call and that, police show up and then it's over. Right.
Right.
So, it's not always, there's not always like, this is what you do to make sure it's always safe, but
there's no book on
there's
it.
There's no like bright line rule on it, but these are all options, I guess.
Yeah. What is it watching the kind of Epstein stuff and things come out and now people shift on the language of it? Like, calling some people just young ladies or it's been weird.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, because you just have more knowledge about kind of that world, what's that like to see?
I think that people are calling it out more. I'm actually kind of encouraged that it's shifting. I haven't been reading it super, super closely because it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. I sometimes can't get too into it because it's, it's so intense. But I guess what I'm noticing collectively is there's a lot of outrage over it. So I guess I'm looking at more like, what is the collective sentiment around this? It seems to be a lot of outrage. Obviously, like, the administration is not always, they're being more defensive about it. But it seems like publicly, I think across the political aisle, a lot of people are not okay with it, which is good.
Right.
We shouldn't be okay with this because this is abusive and exploitative and just like not morally okay.
Right.
But yeah, I think language, definitely that's a cultural thing that will need to change because people, I think, do kind of ascribe more agency to the girls that were exploitive than is appropriate, you know, because they were underage and not, not able to consent. And that needs to be like really emphasized. I think it's obvious to you and me, but maybe not to everybody.
That part, like that is the part I can't wrap my brain around when some of them were like excusing it because girls were 19 or like 17 or,
Yeah, right.
You're like, well, also they've been there since they were 14.
Right.
Or it's just...
And there's so many power dynamics going on, too. Like, how does this make it okay? It's also illegal.
Right. Like that part, like, or the part that some states want to change the legal age and lessen it.
Because of the Epstein thing?
Well, it's just, I've heard different reasons, but some places have lowered the age of consent. And why would you be lowering the age of consent?
Yeah, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
That's disturbing.
And it's normalizing something that shouldn't be normalized.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have really creepy motivation, I guess. Motivations for, I don't know. I can't get into their heads too much because it doesn't make sense to me either. But,
Yeah.
but I do. Maybe I'm a little. I tend to be kind of like an optimist. So I'm like, I think the tide is shifting. Like, I do think the tide is hopefully broadly shifting towards like, let's put a stop to this.
Right.
We did have the Me Too movement not that long ago, which like there was backlash to that too. But I do think that at least there's more public discourse and like openness around what's going on.
Yeah, I think in some ways we kind of started to overcorrect for some of it, and now we're kind of evening back out. But it was like, yeah, we needed to overcorrect because we had been under even acknowledging for so long, and like dismissing it and being like, it's okay.
Exactly.
Like, boys will be boys.
Normalizing it, yeah.
Yeah, that I think it's almost you need to overcorrect it to get it to finally somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Where you can be like, oh yeah, we don't put up with that anymore.
Yeah. Right, because I think like the whole Epstein thing, I mean, that was just normalized by all these powerful people, even people that didn't partake in whatever disgusting activity. A lot of them knew about it or just kind of looked away.
It's almost like the Weinstein thing, but on a larger scale with worse victims.
Right.
At least in Weinstein, it was like mostly adults that were just, there was power dynamics and, trading favors for sex and basically fame for sex. But at least it wasn't kids being, it was almost more palatable. Like, even though it was so disgusting and gross, it was almost like, well, at least, they're adults. It just didn't seem quite as icky.
Yeah, I know. This is like a whole other level of barbaric.
Yeah. And I am kind of happy that it is shedding a light on because for a while it was just mostly talking about the abuse part and not the trafficking part. And then to learn more about trafficking and just how prevalent it is.
Oh, yeah.
That was really scary to me. And that was happening in every city, in every state, in every part of the world.
I know.
Like, I didn't think it was I didn't know it was so egregious.
Yeah. It's important for people to understand that it's very prevalent. Yeah. And the Bay Area where we are right now is a very big hub too. I remember talking to a couple of my colleagues because they do these vice raids, these like raids with Oakland police sometimes where they help sometimes the survivors come in and kind of give them resources and sort of attention and, help them see if they have any needs. But anyway, they were saying that there was a lot more traffic during the Super Bowl weekend here. And which, that's a statistic we've all heard at one point that it's higher during these sports events. But to see it kind of coming to our area, like just as it's been reported was interesting.
Yeah, to have like the facts that support that theory.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me really sad.
Yeah. I know. I think just maybe more openness and more accountability and work on this issue. And, we have a long way to go, but.
Yeah. I even have noticed, and I don't know if it's just because I've been doing some research on different things, that my algorithm is slightly changing. Because I noticed I've gotten some more survivors in my kind of suggestions. And now there's a few of the women that are survivors that are talking about their story and what happened and like calling out people. And like, it's sometimes like hard to see in the middle of my mostly joyous algorithm.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important. And I think it's really to like know about it and learn about it and to find out like how she got into it and how it happened and then how she got out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's super powerful and really admirable for them to be those survivors to be sharing their story so openly.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine the fear of what it is like to come forward, especially if you're in that anything. I'm just talking about someone that wasn't on the Epstein. She just, had a different kind of story, but the fear of those powerful people.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine the courage it takes and so much. Yeah. Like that's a lot of emotional energy and yeah, they deserve some medals because they're heroes and they're speaking up for all survivors too.
Yeah. And they're trying to get it so there won't be any more people to have to be survivors. I think that's the important part is that they're trying to reach back and train all of us to be aware of it and to avoid it and to help break the cycles.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's, that's like the encouraging thing is that there's always these stories to share. Like people can kind of overcome wild obstacles to, confront people like Epstein and former presidents and, people with all kinds of clout, but they, a lot of them survive to tell the tale. And, that this can be anyone's story.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite story that you reach back to when you need to like remind yourself? Like if you're having a tough case, do you have one story that you kind of lean into, or do you have a few of them that you keep in your pocket?
There's some that stick with me. I mean, like, I remember this woman who was like, she basically escaped from Guatemala with her family, and her abuser was horribly abusive to her in Guatemala. Like, he had kidnapped her a couple of times. He had held her hostage, raped her, impregnated her, basically kind of took her, tried to take her as like his own slave. And she and her family ended up getting to the United States, and he found her in the States, somehow tracked her down and like filed for custody in California, tracked her down in different locations. And we stepped in at that point. She called our agency. We stepped in to represent her, and we ended up getting. It was a whole long story, but he basically had some visitation at first, even though he had never spent any time with the kid. And she was like, "This guy literally tried to run my mother over with like his car. Like, he's crazy. Very dangerous." Yeah. And then we ended up stepping in, and we got full restraining order and custody. And I think he had like supervised visits, and then I think he ended up getting deported at some point. But, to see like, she was such a sweetheart too. And she had this like cute little daughter, and, to see like her kind of be able to like live her life in peace after that was really nice to see. And we see a lot of those cases. Like, I remember some of my clients, like I remember one client, she like had this, I think she had been married for 10, 15 years. Like, it was a long marriage. And there was a lot of fraud, and the guy was just kind of a con artist, and there was abuse and harassment, and she was just fed up with him, and she ended up testifying in court, and she told her story, and she won her case, and she got him, I think maybe she got him kicked out of the house too. But I just remember she like cried and told the judge and me like, "Thank you. Like, this has like completely changed my life. And I wouldn't, I don't know what I would do without you." And, it's just like, you just see that people like, they stand on their own 2 feet, and they it's almost like you can hear their voice come out. And it's nice to watch that it's possible to be free of it after.
Yeah. Well, I think I needed a good 1 or 2 stories.
Yeah, I know.
Because I've seen it. I have friends and have seen, friends and neighbors and people that I love go through certain things and come through it. And, I've met people in my line of work and where like, sometimes they'll tell you their story and you're like, what? Wait, what? Like, and I love people's resilience.
Me too.
And I think that that's like the kind of the joy as resistance is like your resilience is there. Like, yes. And it's okay to go get help. It doesn't make you any less resilient.
Oh, yeah.
Like reaching out for help, I think, is the biggest admirable thing you can do.
Right.
And I think it's one of the hardest things you can do.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think we talk about that enough either, like how hard it is to ask for help and to find the right help.
Yeah, totally. I think you're right. I mean, I think because it's a vulnerable thing to do, to say, I need someone else, right? I think a lot of the times, our clients, have this mentality of like, I've been dealing with this, I've got responsibility. They feel very responsible for what's happening to them and for everything going around them. And so it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to say like, I can't, like, I need another person or I need another support network to help me get through this. And it is really a team effort as far as like getting through these situations. I mean, I'm not existing alone. I'm working with a whole team of people to do this. And people out there are also we're all relying on each other. And we're all relying on our systems and community supports to help us through this situation. So that's what gets people out of it is support. I think that's like one of the biggest contributors to getting safe is to find your support network and lean on it if you can.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest, that's finding one or two people that you can go to that then can help you find the other resources that you need is really, if you can find the one person that can connect you with the rest of the resources.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys kind of have all of that encompassed in one because you help, like you said, you work with a team. So you're almost like a one-stop shopping. Like, we'll give you these people to help with housing, these people to help with therapy. Like, here's people that can help you with funding.
It's grown a lot. Yeah. It's helped. I think our team has really grown, and I think it's gotten a lot better at helping people stabilize in their lives. So I can definitely see the results of that.
Are you guys, you're a nonprofit, but then are you in trouble, or are you guys having a hard time with all the cuts that the government has been doing because I imagine the SNAP benefits affect a lot of your clients.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some struggles with funding. We did, unfortunately, we had to lay off one or two people, a couple of people from our agency for different reasons. Well, it was all funding related, but essentially a lot of the city grants are cutting back too. So I think cities are tightening their belts because there's a lot of unpredictability right now at the state level and at the federal level. Their federal grants are okay right now, but there has been a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen to them. And so the uncertainty and unpredictability is, I think, the hardest part because we just don't know whether we're going to have the funding for so many people, Yeah, so it's been tough, but we're getting through it. I mean, I think we have a really good team and we are surviving. Like it's not like we're completely gone. And I think a lot of other a lot of other places are doing okay too.
Yeah. Can people do you guys do fundraisers or is it just all?
Yeah, we do. We usually do an annual fundraiser in October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Okay.
But I mean, people can obviously donate directly to our website anytime. Our executive director would love donations. She's always trying to get, to plug assistance for that because our dollar really goes a long way. Like we really track our money extremely closely. So especially a lot of these small nonprofits, our money does make a tangible impact.
Yeah. Because do you guys have volunteer options too, or is the best way to do is just give money?
We do have some volunteer options. I would recommend people can send info to our volunteer email, but I don't have that in front of me right now.
I can put it in the show notes.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get either legal volunteers or people that want to volunteer in other capacities. So they should definitely reach out. Yeah.
Because I know people talk about giving to big things like the ACLU, but I think we forget about giving things to the little people.
100%, yeah.
And because there's a great, what is the name of it? Now I don't have it in my brain, where you can donate things for kids that are getting out of these situations. Oh, it has something to do with suitcases.
Oh, I think I've heard of this, but I don't know the name of it.
I'll put that in the show notes too, because I will not come up with it now that I'm thinking so hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of great places out there. A lot of places that are doing good work. So and I would agree with you that, of course, we love the ACLU, but their budget is much higher than ours, and they have a lot more capacity. Yeah,
because what you guys really, I mean, you're out there helping the communities and to try to heal the ripples that are. Or I don't even want to call them ripples because every time I think of ripples, I think of the goodness.
Oh, true,
true. I think of the goodness going out, not I don't know, is it the skipping of humanity?
Yeah.
You're helping people come out of situations and be able to stand on their own feet.
Thank you. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think people talk about people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, but you got to give them boots before they can pull themselves up, Yeah. And if you're in one of those situations where you have been isolated or financially become dependent on someone, how do you get out of it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know.
And
it takes a village.
Yeah. And you are part of that. You're leading the village.
I'm definitely a part of it. Yeah. No, it's nice to.
You and your team.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, I feel like that's why I do the work because I really love it. And I love, watching the effects of it and, seeing people get out of situations and get their kids out of situations that are really, not doing well. So it's nice to feel like you're making a difference And I really appreciate that you're sharing these stories. Like I've told you this before, but we've talked about how like it's not something that's highlighted enough in the media.
Right.
You know, these kind of ongoing problems like, you know, poverty and inequality and, you know, racism and all of that. But like, yeah, domestic violence is up there. It's such an isolating thing that's in the shadows oftentimes, but it's everywhere and it's in all kinds of people of all different backgrounds. I see it in my work, like
Right.
gender, sex, ethnicity, you know, sexual orientation, all of it. There's just so many different walks of life that we see, and it can happen to anyone. Yeah.
And I think that's the part that we lose track of, like that it can happen to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Or in like the fact that it is so isolating, you feel like it's just you
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like you're the only one going through it, and you feel
Right.
like you feel like it's not bad enough to talk about.
Right.
Because it's not as bad as what you've seen on like Law and Order or, you know, any kind of given TV show, or, you know, the worst cases that do make the news of like the puffy cases, or like that seems like, oh, well, that's really abuse. Like what I'm going through isn't that bad.
Right.
And so you kind of minimize it yourself. So if you are minimizing it, how is someone else going to get to understand what you're actually going through?
Right. Exactly. And it's nice when people do kind of see that there's other people in their situation and they're like, oh, I'm not alone. And you went through something similar. And then when you start like really putting the dynamics together, it's like, no, it is that, you know, maybe it is that bad, or maybe it's bad enough for you to want to escape and, you know, to feel like you deserve better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't even just have to be abuse. You can be in a bad relationship and need to get out of it.
Yeah, maybe you just need to get out of a bad relationship.
Yeah, like maybe if we could get people to just stay out of bad relationships, abuse wouldn't even be able to get there.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
100%.
like if we could just heal people enough that like you're not in a shitty relationship.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
You don't have to be in it. You don't have to tolerate that. And you deserve to feel like free and have peace in your life and peace in your mental state.
Yeah. And you deserve to, just exhale and breathe.
Yeah.
Because I can only imagine breath holding is the kind of thing that I can bring it to right away. Is like whenever if you feel like you have to hold your breath around someone all the time, that's probably a good sign that you should get out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. One of the things my therapist has said to me, which has really stuck with me, is just like, especially when you're newly dating someone, it's just like feel how your body feels around them, because I think that's a big indicator of how things are going to go. You know, like, do you feel calm? Do you feel angsty, or do you feel on edge? You know?
Yeah. I read once that the butterflies might not always be good.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Like that pit in your stomach, or it might be a pit and not butterflies.
Yeah.
So take a moment and figure it out.
Yeah. Slow down, be mindful.
Yeah.
That's another thing, is like, you know, really, because I think to listen to your intuition, you have to really pay attention, and you have to be mindful, and you have to slow down. So in order to like sensitize yourself to what your intuition is telling you, you know, that's how you can breathe. I remember I watched, speaking of cult documentaries, I remember watching a cult documentary, and there's this one woman who got out of a cult because she went away to go meditate for a while, and like she went on some kind of retreat, and she just like really sat with herself, and then she came back and she just realized this wasn't right for her. And I think that kind of thing is like really telling, you know.
Yeah. If you leave a situation for like, if you can afford to leave a situation for a little while, and then you go back and you're like, wait a second, I felt like a completely different version of myself.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge sign.
Right.
Or even if you're out for the day and you have like this, like, I don't know, this feeling of there's no one controlling you. And then you go home and you realize that doesn't feel the same. But you're right, you do have to be mindful of it.
Yeah.
And when you're surviving so much, it's hard to be mindful.
Yes.
It's hard not to be just exhausted from the surviving.
Right. And just kind of thinking like one step ahead instead of like 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Let me just double check my little notes here.
Good questions.
Thank you. Yeah, what is how does someone support, this was one of my questions and I knew I wanted to get to. How do you support someone in these situations without sounding dismissive? Or
like a client or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like if someone else has someone in that situation, like, is there any like good pointers you have for supporting someone that's coming to you? Like one of your clients come to you and like, how does her family or their family support them through this without sounding kind of dismissive?
When you say dismissive, you mean like instead of saying like, oh, it's not that bad or something, or like,
Or just, like how do you, or even just to support, maybe even that part we don't even need, but like how does you support someone that's in this?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like I think a big one is like validating how they feel. Because I mean, a lot of clients and people, you know, in these situations come to us and they feel all kinds of self-blame and guilt and uncertainty and a lot of times anger. There's a lot of feelings, obviously. And so just really validating, kind of sitting with their experience is helpful because I think there's, you know, people really just need to feel heard. And oftentimes when you're being controlled and abused, you're, like we said, like your sense of self is being eroded. You're not being heard and your agency is being kind of taken over. So kind of giving a sense of agency back to the person, or at least like maybe a better way to say it is like honoring their agency, I think is a big one. So listening, it's tough. It's tough in my role. I guess it's tough as in our position sometimes. You know, we're not like counselors or therapists, so we don't have like a window of time just to listen all the time. But like in my role, or as, you know, as a lawyer role, we have to kind of get information. We have to like get evidence. Like there are some agendas that we need to complete. But I think part of like the advocacy that we also try to do is like slowing down just to like let people get it out and vent and kind of feel like they can get stuff off their chest too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe just holding space for someone and letting them talk without letting someone talk without giving your opinion.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like your opinion kind of doesn't, I mean, our legal opinion is one thing.
Yeah, yes.
But we also allow the other person to make the decisions about the outcome of what they're looking for. So if they want to drop a case, they're allowed to drop a case, you know,
Right.
if they want to have their day. Yeah. You get used to it, you know. If they want to have their day in court, they're allowed to have their day in court. But I can always give them legal advice and like let them make the decision too.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, what you deal with on a day to day is just, I mean, thank you for being out there and doing the work.
Thank you.
I mean, thank you for having a passion for it, to like want to help people.
Thanks.
I think that that's important. And I think that like we need more people that have that and lean into it and go for it. And because you're not doing it for the money, I can't imagine.
No. Nope.
You know,
I think if I would, I probably wouldn't, you know, I'd find something else.
Right. Yeah. Like you're a lawyer that's not going to just get like the corporate money. You're out there trying to take your skill and your knowledge and help people.
Yeah.
And that to me gives me all the hope for like where we can be going as community.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So yeah, no, thank you.
I mean, you know, I think we're all doing our part. Like you're doing your part. We're all doing our part. And my interests they happen to align with this particular field. But like there's so many things that people need in this world that, you know, that we're all contributing to. So.
Yeah, but some of us are contributing in good ways and other people are on the Epstein list.
Yeah. Some people, that's true. Not everyone's contributing positively.
Yeah.
That's true.
So like to be able to talk to someone like you and highlight the stories and, you know, like through you, I'm sure I'll get to talk to some other people that are doing some great work and, you know, highlight some more of the stories and, you know, maybe get some people that want to share their stories on survival and how they did it.
Yeah.
And what worked and what didn't. I think that's, you know, that can be my contribution and that can be the way I help because I love to talk to people about their story. People fascinate me.
Yeah, me too.
And I just, like how they can think so different or how they've gotten through it and what worked, what didn't, and, you know, kind of what their joy was of. Because like I'm a firm believer, like I have a dark sense of humor, but like, so I always can find a joke in the moment, like from anything and in anything. And I will be the one that's going to like make a joke about something to break the tension. Like, I'm not going to keep it so serious. I mean, when I have to, but I don't, you know, even when I probably should, I don't, because I think you have to laugh at the absurdity of sometimes of the world. And I don't know, if you're not laughing, you're probably crying.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, you know, there's a time and place for that too. But I think it's great to have like, yeah, a sense of just like, this is crazy. This is absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a firm believer that not everything happens for a reason. I think some shit just happens.
Yeah.
And I think that trying to say that there is some reason for some things is just, that's dismissive to me. Or it's like trying to victim blame. Like, oh, there must have been something you did in some past life to make this happen. And I hate that concept.
Yeah. And, you know, people have different philosophies on that. A lot of our, you know, some of our clients might feel like maybe there's some, maybe they feel some sense of like, oh, this is giving me some, like maybe this did happen for a reason. I don't know. I've heard different things, you know.
I think you can find reason in things, but I think to say like everything does happen for a reason, I think that just is too...
Like you were asking for it or something.
Yeah, that part is where where it gets a little icky for me.
Yeah.
But like to say like, oh, I can find a reason, or I can find...
Like, a silver lining.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm a huge proponent of silver linings. Like I will look for that shit everywhere.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's like you didn't choose this, right?
Right.
But maybe there's some ray of light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. There'll be a lesson that you learn from it, or, you know, it'll just show you how strong you really are, that when some random crazy shit happens, you can still get through it.
Yeah.
And you can still start to get out of the survival and into the thriving. Like, I think that is all, but just to kind of, anytime someone's like, oh, you know, this did happen for a reason, and it's something terrible and traumatic.
Right.
I'm like, that's like the worst thing to say.
Easy for you to say when you're not in it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, people who are in it will, they have their own experience. 100% agree.
Yeah. All right, Laura. So I'm going to let you get back to your self-care now tonight, because you came and talked to me. Thank you so much.
This was so lovely.
It was. Thank you so much. And for anyone that's listening, give money, give your time, give your money to the Family Violence Law Center. Or if you're not in the Bay, give it to your local. There's got to be kind of branches of what you do all over the place.
Yeah.
So look for them. Help politically, like just try to make good decisions.
Yeah, I mean, take care of yourself and get involved in whatever if you have the capacity and resources for. I think, everyone's probably doing their best, and just, I think, take care of yourself, number one. Because, like you said, like the joy is at the root of everything, right?
Yeah. Yes, let joy be your biggest resistance.
Yeah. 100%.
So, and if you're struggling, reach out. I'll put some resources in the bottom of the show notes, but if you need help, feel free to reach out. I will put you in contact with someone smarter than me, someone probably like Laura or her team. But thank you again, Laura, so much.
Thank you. This has been really great. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening, and go find some joy today.
Yay.